today we're going to be making a slide viewer. Not just any kind of slide viewer, a slide viewer for your Eurorack case. First off, in case you don't know, this is a slide. For any teenagers that are watching, at one point we didn't have any mobile phones, they all had a cable on them, so you couldn't take them very far, and you had to use one of these things to take photos with. And if you use a special type of positive film so the colours aren't inverted when you develop it, then the Photoshop can mount them for you like this in these cardboard or plastic sleeves so that they can fit in your slide projector. And then you can invite all your family and friends around and bore them to death with your holiday photos, most of them out of focus or with your thumb over the lens. That's a bit of a faff to always set up the slide projector if you just want to have a look at what's on one of these slides. Luckily, I've got one of these little slide viewers. You can just put the slide in there, press down, and it backlights the slide so you can look in and see what's on it. To be fair, Buzz Aldrin's holiday photos are a bit more interesting than most people's. What I'm thinking of is a similar idea, a backlit panel, but one that can be mounted in a synthesizer case. Why would I want to do that? Well, I'm developing a synthesizer module that takes in photographic slides and turns the pictures into sound. If you want to hear that, then you need to be a member on Patreon, because I do loads more videos than are just here on the YouTube channel, going into much more detail about all of these projects, and secret ones that I haven't even told you about yet. I've done similar backlit panels before. This is a Disky panel. This is the display from Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin's computer that they used to land on the moon, and you can have that in your synth case. For the Disky panel, I make these little LED backlight boards that plug directly into your Eurorack power, and then the light shines on the back of the panel. So this is what we're going to use for this project too. I'm just going to swap out the LEDs for white ones. So this should be pretty simple. All we got to do is make the actual panel, and we're going to use this stuff. It's a certain type of acrylic. Often you'll see it called opal, and this blue stuff is just a film to protect it. And if you peel that off and shine a light under it, you'll see that it's actually translucent, and it diffuses the light really well, spreads it out across the panel. So this is perfect, and I'm going to use my Disky panel as a template. So this is 10 HP wide, and there are definitely better ways of cutting acrylic, but the simplest is to just score a line in it and then snap it. It doesn't look the best, but it is much easier, and you don't need any fancy tools, just a craft knife. This is a scrap panel that I had. If you're doing this with one of your own Eurorack panels that you don't want to get scratched, then you might want to just use it to measure it and then use a ruler to actually guide the knife. And best to use a wooden or plastic ruler, because metal ones will likely start scratching all the surface of the acrylic. So I'm going to position the Disky panel so it's a little bit in from the edge, so we're cutting the panel a little bit wider, and you'll see why in a bit. And you just want to repeatedly score down and make a deep line in the acrylic. Now I'm just going to move the panel down to just score down the last bit of this board. I'm going to snap it all off in one go. Then we're going to flip it over and score it on the other side. Okay, so now we're ready to snap it off. You want to just bring it to the edge of a table like that. Hold it as firm as you can with one hand, grab it with the other one, and then just snap it off like that. There you go. The only problem is this edge here is a bit jaggedy. That's why we cut it a tiny bit wider, so we can take a file and smooth it down. So you want to use like a fine-toothed metal file for this. Don't use your dad's best one. Put it down on the desk and move it across it just to smooth it out a bit. And be checking the width against your 10 HP panel just to make sure it's the right size. Try and leave the film on for as long as possible. Oh yeah! See there? It's got a little lip at the top so I can file it down. And it really is best to hold the acrylic and press down flat on the edge against the file that's flat on the desk, because otherwise, just naturally, with holding the file, you'll start to round off the corners. Cool, so check it against your panel, make sure it's all good, make sure the edges look nice. Well, I got excited a bit too early and I peeled off the film because we haven't drilled it yet, but the peeling off the film is always the most exciting bit. Right, so what I'm going to do now is just put this over here, and with a marker pen, just going to mark through the holes where they should go. So you'd think the next step would be to just drill the holes, but what you really want to do is use one of these punches here to make a little divot in there, just so it holds the end of the drill bit, stops it wandering off and scratching all your panel. Trust me, that's not fun at this point when you've gone through all the trouble to do all the filing. So you just put it down on the surface, make sure the point of your punch is right on the mark, and then just drive it on down, twist it a bit around just to make a little indent. Don't hammer it down like you might do with some metal, because it might just shatter the acrylic. Get a bit of scrap wood to put under your panel, and then you can start carefully drilling. There we are. And hold on to the acrylic so it doesn't spin around. I've got wobbly drill bits, so if you want to sign up to Patreon, that'd be great, so I can buy some new ones. Alright, it's looking pretty good. These little LED panels are pretty easy to solder together. They've just got a resistor to limit the current so that the LED doesn't blow up. Now, you're going to want these LEDs to be as bright as possible, so you're going to have to check out how much current they can take. You can find that in the datasheet, and from that you can work out the resistor that you should put in the LED board. All you have to do is use Ohm's law, and you can find Ohm's law calculators online. You put in the voltage, then you put in the maximum forward current that is on your datasheet, and then it will tell you the resistance, and you don't want to go lower value than that. So just get the resistor of the next highest value that you've got and stick that in, and that will give you the brightest light without blowing it up. I'm going to use 220 ohm resistors for mine. It also has a diode there for reverse bias protection, just in case you plug it into the power bus the wrong way round and it breaks your LED. So it can't do that. Just start with the resistors and the diodes, get them all in there, make sure the diodes are round the right way. They've got a little stripe on them, and that goes around the same way as the stripe on the silkscreen symbol. And the white stripe down here is the equivalent of the red stripe on your Eurorack ribbon cables. So it's just telling you that that side plugs into minus 12 volts. But the boards are reversible. You can solder the components into either side. So you need to decide if you want the LEDs on this side of your header or on this side. My advice is that you do 2 one way and 1 the other way. And you'll see how that works out later. Now we're going to solder in the LEDs. I'm using these ones here. They're 5mm diffused warm white, and you really need diffused LEDs for backlighting these panels to spread the light out so you don't just get a little spot of light on the back of the panel. The brighter the LEDs, the better, so try and get the ones that say super bright. These have to go in the right way. The long lead is positive, and that goes where the plus sign is. Simple enough. And you don't want to put them all the way through the board, just bring them down till the little square bits on the metal leads butt up against the pads in the PCB. Wiggle it in there a bit so that it holds itself, then you can solder them in. That way we can then bend these and aim them at the back of the panel to get an even spread. Alright, nearly there. We're onto the headers, and you want to make sure obviously that that is going on the opposite side to the LEDs. So just put them in the holes there, push it all the way down on, and then they should hold themselves in while you solder. One of those helpy hands would be useful, but I seem to have misplaced mine. There we are, good to go. Let's get it all in the case. This is my lunchbox case. It's made out of literally a lunchbox, and there's going to be a tutorial about how to make these coming soon. It's already on the Patreon, so go check that out. And just for here you can see my power supply PCB, which I'm going to be releasing the Gerbers of on the £5 a month Patreon tier, so check that out. So now let's put our little LED modules in, making sure that the stripe is pointing the right direction, and let's aim the LEDs around a bit to try and spread out the light. Very gently you can put them side to side as well as up and down. The ideal situation is that your power bus is midway on the case. Let's plug them in to test them. Oh yeah. Right, let's put the panel on. Oh, it's looking pretty good. There we are. It's not looking bad, is it? Should we try a slide on it? Here we go. Oh wow, that works pretty damn good. How awesome is that? That's so cool. There's one of Jupiter. But if you don't have a case that lies down, don't worry. All you need to do is get yourself some of these things. These are little clips from the back of picture frames. All you have to do is just put them underneath your rack screws, and you can slide the slide under it, and it will hold it on there for you.
We are still a long way from answering that final question, and perhaps we never will be able to answer it. What is the universe, and how was it created? Man now sees himself living on a small planet within a solar system and galaxy which is merely an imperceptible faint point of light in the everlasting vastness of unending space.